Good morning, everyone. We'll be doing a live stream today talking about the 51% attack that's just gone down on Ethereum Classic. We'll give everyone a couple of minutes to tune in. So if you're rewatching this later, feel free to skip ahead a minute or two. But this isn't the first time we've seen these 51% attacks lately. So we're going to talk about the different coins that have been hit, how this happens, what exactly has occurred, and what you need to know and do about it. G'day James, g'day Luca. This is exactly why MaxCoin algorithm is needed, says Luca. That's an interesting point. And I'm actually making a video about some of those older coins that have been around for a few years and about altcoin cycles and FOMO cycles. And MaxCoin is one that's been around for a while, made by Max Keisner for those that aren't aware. G'day Jacob, g'day Mick. Hey Clint. And right on tune, we've got a Max subbing in. G'day Bernard, g'day Ben, hey Pete. So at the moment, guys, there has been a 51% attack on Ethereum Classic. And this news was first broken that I saw on Crypto Coin News and saying that they might have been hit by a 51% attack. We had other sites coming out and confirming what has happened, a deep chain reorg, and I'm going to talk about that as well, which included a double spend. But price has fallen a little bit, so we're down, 10-12% today. But if we look at the charts longer term, Ethereum Classic's down around 90%, but for a lot of other coins, they probably would have fallen harder than this. So for you traders out there, I'll be watching this as a possible short to continue down lower, depending on the outcome of the news. If there's a good resolution, if this turns out not to be a genuine attack, I'm going to talk about all that as well. So let's get into the actual news. So Coinbase has suspended Ethereum Classic, withdrawals and deposits and all that sort of thing after the blockchain rewrites history. So I've done videos on this before, and the hash power, Ethereum Classic devs have come out and said that the hash power consolidation is not a 51% attack. So there's already, a bit of arguing going on in the community there. Now, I've done detailed analysis, guys, if you need to get your head around exactly what a 51% attack is, broken down in very clear terms. So check out that video if you haven't already. But basically, it all comes down to hash rate and the miners that are using a proof of work algorithm to support the network and build the blockchain and add transactions into those next blocks. So Ethereum tends to have about, 10 to 20 times more hash rate. So Ethereum Classic is trading at around 5 or 10% of that hash rate at any one time. So because there's only such a small amount, 5%, if you have more than 51% of those miners, so that means if only a small percentage, and we've already seen a big drop off as prices declined on the people that are mining Ethereum. So if enough of those miners decide they want to mine Ethereum Classic or attack that network, it doesn't take very much computational power compared to something like Bitcoin, where it's almost impossible for it to be 51% attacked unless there's so many computers out there or quantum computers that we don't even know about that are more powerful than all those other computers out there to get greater than 51% of the hash rate. So you can see here Ethereum Classic, pretty low hash rate. If you're familiar with this term, the longest chain or the most accumulated proof of work, you start to get your head around these concepts, and I'm going to talk about it now. So this is what a chain reorg looks like on the Ethereum Classic blockchain explorer there. And we'll dive into this announcement now. So deep chain reorganization detected by Coinbase. And this included a double spend. So it's one thing for if two miners mine blocks and get out of sync and then we get back in sync and it's all in the right order. Some transactions might be in a different order, but there's nothing too fraudulent happening. But it's different if they've deliberately mined a longer chain, double spent some coins or sent coins to an exchange and sold them and withdrawn their profits, and then they reorganized the chain to rewrite history where they never sent those coins to an exchange and they've still got them in their wallet. wallet. So this is where it creates a lot of trouble, and they've detected 8 reorganizations, including double spends totaling $460,000 so far. So they're monitoring the network. I've touched on this, the background of proof of work and the majority of miners being honest nodes and whatnot. But now we have a lot of these other coins that have adopted proof of work. And one of those themes that I spoke about for 2019 was the importance of proof of work and how Bitcoin is by far the strongest chain, and every coin that uses that specific algorithm, everything below it that uses the same algorithm with low hash rate is seriously under threat, and that is exactly what we've seen play out today. So the deep chain reorg, or a reorganization reorg for short, what I just spoke about then, where we have those different blocks being used for fraudulent purposes. So I'm not going to go into all this here. I've already touched on this a bit. But this is the details of those chain reorgs that they have noticed. And when they detected this, they obviously want to shut down withdrawals and deposits in case there's more double spending happening, and they want to ensure that no funds are lost. So the next steps here, they're going to see how this all plays out and see if it's been malicious, and then they might re-enable trading, deposits and withdrawals and so on. But Ethereum Classic came out and tweeted this, that regarding these recent events, they may have an idea where hash rate come from. So there's been ASIC manufacturer Lindsay confirming testing of their new machines. So we know that ASICs are very powerful. They can accumulate more hash rate than just your graphics cards or whatnot. But they're saying that this is just these new ASICs testing out, and it's most likely selfish mining. I mean, they're just mining for themselves to test out these machines and how powerful they are, and they're not really doing this to double spend. But we know that Coinbase have already said that they detected double spend. So then the next tweet was, regarding Coinbase's allegedly detecting double spends, they're saying, hey, they didn't talk to us about it, and they're saying that this is a personal attack or whatnot. But I think Ethereum Classic are a little bit on the back foot here, and then they're saying, hey, we're not making any attempt to hide anything that's going on or downplay events. Facts are facts. If they've detected that double spend and chain reorg, then it might be true that there's been testing and an attack at the same time. So let's wait and see how this plays out. But what I think is particularly interesting is the fact that this is the second coin that's been attacked that is a big investment of Grayscale investments. So they've been big investors in Zencash, and we know that Zencash was 51% attacked back in June last year with the same sort of thing, double spending transactions. Now, for those of you that don't know how Ethereum Classic came to be, the majority of the community had agreed to do that hard fork and reverse the DAO funds so that the hacker didn't get away with millions of dollars. And at the last minute, behind a lot of people's backs and seemingly out of nowhere, Barry Silbert and Poloniex decided to list this coin, which everyone thought was just dead. It was going to, fade into history as the old chain. And they listed it, and he started tweeting about how it was a great investment and how much of it he was buying. And a lot of that stuff, people were saying that if the SEC was watching this space at the time, it'd be a slap on the wrist sort of stuff. So they're heavily invested in Ethereum Classic, and they don't own any Ethereum. Heavily invested in Zen. So a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth from the way that all played out and the way Barry Silbert accumulated Ethereum Classic. Some say his fund owns around 20% of all Ethereum Classic, and him personally, who knows how much him and his friends own. They control the majority of Ethereum Classic, I would speculate. So they've got a lot of skin in this game. That's why they did what they did back in 2016. A lot of you weren't around then. And as I said, there's a lot of people in the Ethereum community that aren't really happy with what's been going on. And now we've had 2 of his coins get 51% attacked. So I'd be interested to know what you guys think about all that. I'll read some comments now. But that price is down a long way. But if we look at the coin market cap, it's still right up there. It's still in the top 20, $500 million market cap. We know that recently they had all that news around the developers that were leaving. So one of the main developer pools were running out of funds and closing down. We've seen some arguments in the GitHub lately. I'm not sure how many people are actively developing on that. It's bad enough as it is for Ethereum, with Consensus having to lay off developers and workforce and whatnot. But Ethereum Classic, look, I think this has got a lot of room to the downside. But then as a trader, when things get overly bearish and everyone's thinking it's dead, you guys know my long-term view that I think Ethereum Classic is going to come out and beat their chest and say, hey, we're that proof of work coin, the original chain, when Ethereum wants to make that move to proof of stake. So yesterday I did that video about the Ethereum hard fork and what you need to know. Please check that out, because that explains the ice age and the move to proof of stake in the future and so on. And I really think that that is when Ethereum Classic are going to make their big run at, hey, miners, if you want to keep making money, we're going to stay as the proof of work coin. They're going to push articles out. So Barry Silbert also owns CoinDesk, founder of CoinDesk. So they're going to push articles out on CoinDesk saying, you know, proof of stake's bad, Ethereum Classic is the real Ethereum. And I see all that happening in about 12 months' time because of how much skin they have in the game. You know, as a businessman, it would make sense to do that. But, you know, these days, it'll be interesting to see if the SEC keep a closer eye on this sort of thing with conflict of interest and all that. It's not a good look for the market as a whole. You know, the mainstream headlines are probably going to come out and tell people that, you know, the headlines are going to be Ethereum gets attacked and all that sort of thing. So we know that they're going to produce some sort of FUD. But guys, I will leave it there. That's all I wanted to share with you today. My thoughts. Read that Coinbase blog. Keep an eye on the Ethereum Classic Twitter. And have a read about the history of Ethereum Classic, Barry Silbert, and Poloniex if you haven't already. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Smash that like button. Share these videos around. Subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks as always for supporting the channel. Cheers.